we're actually becoming a huge place for arts, first of all. Let me say that. Let me not start off what we don't have. We have a great art scene here in Milwaukee. We have a great creative scene here in Milwaukee. But it's something that's still being elevated. It's something that's still being more known. And I got to let the kids in on the secret, you know, because when I was growing up, I was like, dang, I want to really do this creative stuff, but it didn't really seem like we had that here. We didn't have film resources. Now we have a lot of film resources here for the kids. And like I said, I just want to be a part of doing that.
Welcome back to the Media Bolt podcast, where we talk all things content creation. So no matter if you're shooting with your cell phone or you're filming on a big budget cinema camera, we're here to provide you with practical knowledge for the next time that you press record. On today's episode, I have an amazing special guest. I've got Emmy-winning filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, Santana Coleman here to talk about all things that she's got going on, things she's done. And we're just blessed to have you here today. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. Tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, you made it here.
I did.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think the first thing I kind of want to just talk about is like, why filmmaking? Where'd your passion for it come from? And like, how'd you get into it?
Filmmaking, I think it just was invested in me somehow. Like, I think I feel like, you know, I wanted to do this since I was in middle school. It's the only career I could ever remember wanting to do. There was nothing else I ever actually wanted to do. You know, I have little bitty memories here and there of why I might have chose that. But to be honest, like I said, I think it was just ingrained in me. Like, I think it was just something that was destined to be. And so then I started going to different programs, trying to learn film. And then, which it wasn't a ton in Milwaukee, but we had a few. Or in Wisconsin. And then, you know, went to school, did not go to film school, unfortunately. Went to a school that I attended a pre-college at, so it was just kind of easy to transition into there. Didn't have a lot of support around college, so I thought it was either New York Film Academy, which I couldn't afford, or this small rural school in Wisconsin, which I could afford. So went there. They did eventually have a media studies program, very luckily. Around my sophomore, maybe junior year, that I got into. It was more broadcasting, but they don't have that program anymore. So, and they started it while I was there. So it's something that like I wouldn't have got at least those small amount of skills had they not had that. And then I did my own first documentary for a independent studies class, and then kind of took off from there.
Yeah. It's the evolution of yourself as a filmmaker. You know, I think all of us can kind of attest to this. You start off just toying around, getting interested. And then like for yourself, like what made you like really land on being a director and kind of developing those projects from the beginning?
So director was the first thing I wanted to be. Like, I think growing up, I was always very outgoing. I was very direct. I was very, I don't know. I think I was one of those kids that was like, if I'm going to do it, I got to be at the top. I got to be controlling things. I got to be the one to say what's going to happen. I didn't even know what a director was. I just knew that like, it's mine. Like, I'm at the top of this totem pole. Right. And, funny enough, when I jumped into my professional career, I started obviously as a PA, but like once I really started to get the skills and learn, I moved up to co-producer, and I mostly started producing first. And so my first time directing, I think, came a few years, like after years and years after I started my career. No, I guess you could say the thing I did on campus, I directed. But again, at the time, I didn't really know what directing was and stuff like that. So, but directing is what I always knew I wanted to do. I just kind of deviated from that a little bit, just trying to get in the industry. And then it got to a point where it was like, if this is what I always wanted to do, why not focus on that? Why not really be intentional about moving forward and doing that? And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of directors that got into that producing world first. I think it does open up like what all's involved in a production.
Yes.
It lets you kind of see the scope of everything from a wider view, which I think helps you as a director.
Yes, for sure.
I've heard a couple people say that.
Yeah.
What would you take away from producing that helped you specifically as a director?
Probably the biggest thing, and I guess you didn't even really need to be a producer to do this, but was being able to watch a director. So, when I was producing When Claw Got Shot, Brad Lichtenstein was the director, and he had been a filmmaker for 20 plus years by that point. And just watching him in action was like really cool, and learning from him. And then once I started to get the hang of it, to be honest, I think some skills that you need as a director, especially for documentary, like come natural to me. And so it was such a natural transition in the documentary world. Now, when I went over to narrative, which I want to do both forever. But when I went over to narrative, that was definitely a learning curve. Mm-hmm. I had shadowed directors before on different sets, even Hollywood sets. But when you're on a Hollywood set, first of all, there's so much going on. You can't just focus on like what the director is doing. And, actually, the stuff I shadowed were TV shows. So that's a little different than what you do in a film. And so, I think producing overall just gave me the opportunity to shadow a director. And then, like you said, it gave me the fundamentals of all the elements that we need to create this and make this work. And just things that you don't even think about if you come in immediately trying to direct. I think you need that groundwork first before you come in with the vision, and before you come in with, this is how I want stuff to be.
This is how I want it to be.
Yeah.
What are some of those sets that were really impactful? Some of those bigger Hollywood sets that you. So
I shadowed on Empire.
Okay.
Almost combined the two shows. I shadowed on Empire for. Long story short, for Black Girl Training, we won this big national competition, and a part of that was that we got some industry mentors. And so Gabby Sidibe, who played on Empire and also did Precious, she was our mentor, one of our mentors. And so she had luckily directed one of the episodes of Empire and invited us to come by. And that was really cool. And then I got to shadow another woman director who did Godfather of Harlem. It was like it wasn't even out yet. It was like the first season, maybe second. I haven't watched it, unfortunately, but maybe like second episode or something. So that was in New York, and that was pretty cool too. But like I said, when you're on a set like that, it's so much going on. You're paying attention to everything, and like I'm trying to learn everything while I'm here. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Something that's, I think, synonymous with all your work. It's very impactful, emotional. It's gripping stuff. Like, it's tough subjects sometimes. Even why do you want to tell these type of stories and not the comedies or like something that really hits?
Funny enough, I again fell into that. So that's why when I look back and reflect, I'm like, dang, I guess I was just kind of made for this. Like, fell into documentary, fell into social justice, fell into filmmaking in the sense that, like I said, I never wanted to do anything else. And so I think really it was just God leading my steps now that I look back at it. But I always grew up thinking I wanted to. So I was always a writer growing up. I wrote books, poems, stories, all type of stuff. I didn't write movies because I didn't know how. But in my mind, like, I wanted to do comedies. I wanted to do dramedies. I wanted to do love stories. I wanted to do action. I don't know, like whatever I decided I wanted to do, but social justice was not in there. Not that I was staying away from it. I just didn't really know much about it, I guess. But again, first job, When Claw Got Shot, fell into, gun violence in Milwaukee, which had always been very prevalent to me because I grew up here and I experienced it multiple times. So it was like, this is something near and dear to my heart. I've always been a very caring, empathetic person. Yeah. So I think even knowing that I was about to work on something like that was exciting for me because I knew it would be impactful. And then from there, it just continued. Like, even if I wanted to get away from it, I can't. It could be heavy sometime. And so I think that's why eventually we developed Black Girl Training. That's why eventually, which we'll talk more about later, but my series, Camp Interchild, like that stuff started to bring just joy, but still have social justice elements. So it was like, I just realized that I think my career is just going to be one of those things that just always has some type of impactful lens, no matter if it's comedy involved or not. But you still need those stories that feel more comedic relief and a little lighter than the other stuff I've worked on. So I think that's kind of where all that stuff came from.
Are there any key elements when you're looking for a story that you really want to dive into that that you need, or like, I wouldn't call it the sauce, but like things that need to be a part of that story to make it have enough like weight so that you can really tell that story?
That's a good question. There's a few things. So like, for instance, I'm really at a place in my career right now where if it's a freelance gig and someone's hiring me, I won't take it if it doesn't, number one, feel right. Like, if for whatever reason God is telling me that's not for me, I'm not going to do it. If for whatever reason I don't feel like the project or the people doing it are authentic, I'm not going to do it. If I don't feel like the set is safe or respectful or anything like that, I'm not going to do it. And if I don't personally vibe with that story, whether it be because I can identify with it in some way, or I really think it's interesting or a cool concept or whatever, I just won't do it. So I can pick and choose now when it comes to like someone hiring me for their things. Sure. When it comes to my own projects, it's always going to be authentic because I'm creating it. It's always going to be something I'm passionate about. It's always going to be something I want to explore more. I'm naturally curious. So a lot of my projects come from either me being able to go through almost a full circle moment and have a revelation. I love learning. I love almost debating. Like, I love hearing, like, having my own opinion, being able to voice that, hearing somebody else's opinion and being like, damn, hold on, you kind of did something with that. You kind of changed my opinion a little bit.
You have a growth mindset.
Yeah. So like, I love being able to put forth a story that's like, what if other people heard it this way or saw it this way or got to like learn from that journey? And so anything that I put out is always going to have that I guess sauce or recipe of growth, of authenticity, hopefully of Milwaukee. I can't stick to that and say every single thing I do is going to be that, but I have really grown to love my city and put that in a lot of my work. And I plan to continue to do that. Blackness likely is going to be a part of that. Womanhood is likely going to be a part of that. But again, I can't say that all these things will always be a part of everything I'm doing, but that's usually the lens that I'm coming from.
And how has the city of Milwaukee kind of structured and created you as a creative, built you? I
think that's a good question too. I think Milwaukee made me resilient in so many ways. Like, and I know everybody say that about their city, and I hope it's true for them, and I don't doubt that it's true for them. But obviously, this is home for me, and it hits in a different way. We have a lot of issues here, as people know, but people love to just point that out, talk about the bad, leave, never come back, never give back. And I don't know, at the end of the day, I feel like this city is part of what made me me, and I would never just abandon it. Like I said, it's home. It's one of those things where even when I travel away, I've never lived outside of Wisconsin. And I do hope to do that one day just for the sake of the growth, like I talked about, but this will always be home. And whenever I travel and I come back, I'm like, I love it here. Like, I want to kiss the ground. Like, and it was a journey getting there. Right. But now that I see what it has made me and how it has helped me and shaped me, we have a little culture here. Like, I know LA got their own culture. New York got their own culture. New Orleans. And you wouldn't think a city like Milwaukee has a culture, but we do. And that is a part of, again, my home base and what made me and what shapes my stories that I tell. And so at the end of the day, now that I've been able to fall in love with the city, I'm going to put all of that into my work as well and always give back to Milwaukee in whatever way I can. And, yeah,
motivated and driven and purpose driven, everything. It sounds like you do.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to start talking a little bit more about some of the specific projects you've been on and just diving into that aspect, because I think people that are listening and watching this are going to be super curious and excited to hear some of that stuff from you.
Okay.
So the first thing that I kind of want to start with is when Claude got shot. Could you just give us a synopsis of what that is and how you got on that project and your role? Just kind of a quick intro of that.
So when Claude got shot is the story of a man, Claude Motley, who was born and raised in Milwaukee, and he moved his family to North Carolina due to the gun violence and lack of opportunities here. He came back for his high school class reunion where he was shot in the face during an attempted carjacking by a 15-year-old. He survives, and then 2 days later, the 15-year-old tries to carjack a woman, Victoria Davison, who shoots him in self-defense. And so it's the story of how these three lives connect in a weekend of gun violence and how they change each other's lives. It's a story of forgiveness and redemption and restorative justice and just really finding the areas in our lives where we can identify with each other, and also, you know, the criminal justice system and how we handle things like that. So it was a really beautiful opportunity to be able to work on something like that. I got the job just from someone I knew who knew someone who knew someone, and connected me to Brad Lichtenstein, the director of it. And I was in college at the time. I needed an internship to complete my diploma. So I planned to walk across the stage early so I could come back to Milwaukee and do my internship. Because I knew I didn't want to do anything around the town I was in. They didn't have like film stuff around there. So once I got the job virtually, and then I came back home, and less than a week later, I was working at 371 as a PA on the project, as an intern. And so once my internship was done, I'm out of school now. And so I was immediately hired on. I think initially I was hired on as PA, I believe. Then I was moved up to associate producer, and then I was moved up to co-producer over the course of like 5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then I guess tell me a little bit about through that process, because that is a very heavy topic, right? What were the emotions like going through that? Because you're probably discovering that story as you guys are filming and kind of putting it together. What was that like? It
was crazy. It was definitely a lot of emotions. I'm always transparent about the fact that when I first came onto the project, so they had already been shooting for about a year, maybe a year and a half at this point. And so my first day at the job, I was at like the studio that we, like our offices, and I was reviewing footage so I can get caught up on everything. And I was just so excited. And for a while I looked at this like, oh my God, I'm doing a film. Like, I'm finally a filmmaker. Yay. Like, and it took a minute for me to really be like, damn, hold on, this is a real story with real people, a real situation. And like, while this is exciting and it's my first film, I also have to be mindful that like, this is real. Okay. And so once I met Claude, once I started to meet, you know, Victoria, even once I met Nathan, like the shooter, it all started to really become more real. And as I just matured as a person. And of course it was still about telling a story, but it was about, like we talked about, the impact of that story. It was about why we're telling this story now and how we have to make sure this story is told correctly, not just because, you know, we're filmmakers, but because these are real people and we want to be able to do justice with this story. So it was definitely emotional roller coasters. And also by this point, like, so Claude is a very like jokester person. He was like the class clown type guy. So there were emotions when it was like, oh my God, like you shot this person out of everybody. But also like there were so many moments that we're laughing and joking and, you know what I'm saying, having fun on set. So, or maybe not on set, but you know, the times that we're not filming, but we're together. So it was still a fluctuation of emotions, but it was necessary.
Yeah. So that project went on to win an Emmy. Can you just tell us, because I don't think there's a lot of people that have never experienced anything like that and may never experience anything like that. And a lot of people aspire to it. But what was that like? What was that whole event like? What was that like and what was that event like? And just tell us a little bit about winning the Emmy.
So the moments leading up to the Emmys was just hectic and crazy. Like I didn't even think I'd be able to go. It was so much hoopla about whether I could go or not. It was a little bit after COVID. So it was like COVID tests you had to take that had to be very specific in a very specific time frame and all these things. It was just a lot of things that almost prevented me from going. So I was kind of really stressed out. To be honest, I don't think any of us thought we would win, but we were like, we here, it don't matter. Like we just don't have fun and enjoy the moment. We were in a category with a film that was on HBO. I think that's the one that was about Frederick Douglass. And then there was another one about like something like transgender athletes or something and like which teams they belonged on. And I think that I forgot which network that was with, but we were like, damn, these are some heavy hitters. Like we were a little nervous. We even met some of the people from like the same category that we were basically kind of competing against, and and it still was all love. But it was very surreal for sure. It was an amazing event. It felt like something straight out of a movie. And then when we won, it was just, I still remember that as like one of the best days of my life. Like just the energy in the room. I was dealing with a lot of shoe problems that day, being a woman. And so like my feet were killing me. My heels were like it was weird stuff going on with my feet. And I remember sitting at the table being like, should I just put my shoes back on? What if we win? No, we're not going to win. I should just leave them off. What if I just go up there barefoot? No, I'm not going to do that. Like, I just had all these thoughts about like trying to get myself together as our category came up. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just put them on loosely and just, whatever happens, happens. And we won. And I remember throwing my phone and yelling and we all hugging and all this stuff. And we went up and did our speech. And it was such an amazing day. And then after, they have this big gala for everyone. And that was really cool. That was like just this Hollywood party. And it was just amazing. Easily one of the best days of my life, and so many amazing memories and feelings from that day.
That's so cool. I was doing a little research too. So Snoop was involved with the project. Mm-hmm. What was his, and we're talking about Snoop Dogg. Yeah. What was his involvement, and what was he kind of helping with?
So he came on a little bit more towards the end as an EP. Okay. So when we were doing Impact, because I also did a lot of Impact work on When Claude Got Shot, with an organization called The League that we hired to handle our Impact campaign. And we really wanted to get him involved more so on that front. But unfortunately, we didn't get to do any events with him. We do hope to, I think Brad hopes to pick the Impact campaign back up at some point. Not sure if that's going to happen or not, but hopefully we'll get him involved more around that time.
Very cool. Very cool. And then that led into the series, mm-hmm. the kind of mini series mm-hmm. for When Blank Got Shot. Yep. Can you tell us about that transition and kind of where that's at as it stands today?
Yeah, so When Blank Got Shot was something that we conceptualized during the Impact campaign, like I said, with the League. And that was something that I was able to, I think that was my first time directing. And so that was super exciting for me because, not to get super deep into it, but basically we had like hired someone else to do it. We hired like another team to do it, and I helped with more of like the producing on the back end. And then we weren't super happy with the results that we got back. So then we were like, okay, how can we do this over? And I was like, let me jump in. I got this. Like, and I had somehow found that confidence that I had in college when I just was like, I'm gonna just do a movie for this class. And so luckily I did have that because it turned out amazing, and it was amazing. I knew everyone who we did that with personally. One of my cousins was one of the subjects. His episode is When Xavier Got Shot. And all of these are on our YouTube page on When Claude Got Shot. And so, yeah, we did these with the intention of just kind of highlighting more Milwaukee stories of gun violence. We knew it was going to be limited. I think we either have 3 episodes. Yeah, we have 3 episodes. We also did some Mother's Day videos of mothers who had been impacted by gun violence, which you can also find on our When Claude Got Shot YouTube page. And so that's something that's likely not going to be picked back up, but it was something that was like brief and limited to just, continue those conversations and have bite-sized pieces that we can use for social media and things like that.
So that was your first foray into directing.
Yeah.
What was that like, being in charge on a set like that? Because I guess it's different when you're watching mm-hmm. and it's emotional things going mm-hmm. on, but when you're actually the one that's kind of interacting with this person that went through
right.
trauma, yeah. How did you approach that? Because that's a very delicate thing, and I think is important.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you asked, just for me to dig a little bit more into that. It was such a reassuring and affirming process because, yes, it was a lot of tears. Yes, it was a lot of emotions, but I got so much affirmation from even the subjects about how good I did and how comfortable I made them feel and how amazing their experience was, like better than any other experience they've had. And these are people who work, and like one of the women, Deborah Gillespie, she's the founder of Mothers Against Gun Violence. I hope I'm saying her organization correctly, but she works in Milwaukee all the time talking about her son's death and how that impacted her and trying to prevent gun violence. And she's did multiple interviews, but ours was like, let me talk to you on the side. So one of my processes is that I do a pre-interview before the actual interview. And whether that's over the phone, I try to make it in person if I can, or sometimes it's over the phone, but even in person, right before we interview, like while they're getting their makeup done or something, I'll pull them to the side and I really just talk to them heart to heart. You know what I'm saying? Is there anything off limits? Is there anything you don't want to talk about? But outside of that, I really try to connect with them and like I said, pull out those empathic skills that I have to connect with them and let them know, like, let go of all your inhibitions, let go of anything that feels like this is a media situation or whatever, and just like speak from the heart. And so we have those type of heart-to-heart conversations beforehand, and it makes for such an authentic interview. And then also when you're doing the interview, just giving them space, like space to feel, space to remember, space to think, just a lot of different things like that. We also had a therapist on set. I thought that was very important. And so she was sitting next to me. And as we're doing the interview, if there is moments that feel like we need to break, we keep rolling. But if we need to break, or if the therapist needs to jump in, she was amazing. Simone, oh Lord, I hate that I cannot remember her last name right now. She was actually an extra in my movie. And she's amazing. And I'm blanking on her last name right now. But Simone... and she was really great about, like, again, just knowing the perfect moment to jump in and letting them have the emotion, but then also like jumping in and being like, this is what you're feeling right now. Tap into that. Why are you feeling that? And so a lot of that was really helpful for my directing too, because
so she helped you dig deeper in a way that felt safe.
Yes. Yeah. And that was helpful for my directing too, because there's so much I can do as a director. But then when you have this mental health professional here who's like, we got you, and the whole space just felt like that. The whole space. So, and we did it with a small crew as well, just to, again, make that something that felt like a comfortable space. We had food and drinks and like everything, whatever we need to do to stop. Let's get you some water. Let's touch up your makeup. Let's chat on the side if we need to. And so that was, I think, necessary for it to be my first directing experience. And so to hear from these people that, like, as many interviews as I've ever done, as many experiences as I've ever had, this was the most comfortable I've ever felt doing an interview. This was the most in-depth I've ever got. This was the most patience. This was the most, like, one woman even told me, like, all her other interviews just was so rushed. And we went over time. Yeah, we did. Yeah. But to give them that space to really dig in there was like chef's kiss. Like, it was necessary.
I think you gave a bunch of amazing tips within that tidbit of things. So giving them the space, I think you said the time, the break in the breath within. I think that's because, a lot of times when you're on a project, you're like, oh, we're up against the gun on time. We got to move. But you miss that moment and letting people get to that space that they need to be in to actually articulate, remember. Yeah.
And to be honest, luckily, most of my documentary sets have been something where we're in a location that is allowing us to use it as long as we need. We're on people get paid by day rate, so they ain't going nowhere.
Right.
We have blocked off the day, even if we thought this was only going to take 2 hours or whatever the case may be. And I'm very lucky now, and I'm having this revelation right now that, like, that has been the case, because as a documentary director, you always want to provide that space. You don't want to talk so much that you're not listening. Your job is to listen. And so if somebody's talking, or even if they're breaking, even if they're thinking, even if they're reflecting, whatever they're doing, you have to allow that space. And to rush the process is just to, rush the emotion of it that you're putting out there. So yeah, that's very important for me. And I think all my sets run like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want you to tell us a little bit about your production company and maybe some goals you have moving forward with that.
Yeah. So my production company is called Hershey Productions. It's a spinoff, obviously, Hershey chocolate, but for the Black women, but also her and she, right? So the pronouns that we love and the pronouns that we hold so near and dear to us, and just it's kind of a play on different types of women and what it means to be woman, right? So you might have your soft women, you might have your super strong women, you might have your home girls, you might have your, whatever. And it's me paying tribute to all of those women and being like, we all have a story and we all deserve our story to be told. We're still in the process of branding, so we haven't officially rolled out yet. But we're going through an amazing branding process with my brand strategist, Sydney Hart, and with Hart Studios, I believe is her company. And I think most of our beliefs and a lot of the things the values that we hold near and dear are a lot of the things I talked about today: Milwaukee, women, Blackness, authenticity, and telling stories that maybe don't get told as much or from a different perspective. We do hope in the future, like right now, it is definitely about making movies. It's definitely about mentoring and helping other people in Milwaukee come up and make movies. It's about, EPing or doing whatever we can to provide a resource for Milwaukee filmmakers and Midwestern filmmakers. Also outside of that too, I'm not just limiting it, but that's our focus. And then eventually we definitely want to get into events. I feel like I know so many people in Milwaukee who do film in one way or another, who either live here and work somewhere else, never come outside, or or they live here and work here, but again, never come outside. They just here to work, keep their head down and stuff like that. And that's great. I love that for them. But also, I definitely want them to be able to share their experiences and share their gems that they have with the up and coming filmmakers here. For sure. And so holding space and holding events that can help, teach the game pretty much. Yeah. So I hope to do a lot more of that. I hope to like I said, connect with Midwestern, not only filmmakers, but my audiences. I always want to stay in the impact realm because, like I said, all my stuff has some type of social justice lens. So also just creating impactful events as well, where we can just connect authentically as people here. It's a lot more, but like I said, we're still working on branding and I want to be able to have polished words to be able to really speak about things. So
yeah, for sure. It looks like you have a vision and that's what's important.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, they want to do things. Mm-hmm. They have, they aspire to do things, but until you have that vision and you know where you're going, it really, it makes things, you don't have a way to kind of decide on what each step needs to be to get there. Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to be more intentional. I actually just came from New Orleans. I know this is funny, but like me and my husband sat down with this tarot card reader guy just in the middle of New Orleans, and he read my like past, present, and future, and he was telling me for the future I need to be more intentional. I need to set goals and be confident in those goals and move forward with making those goals happen. Because in contrast, in the past, and he read this in my cards, which was also true, I have been more like letting God lead my steps, which is always going to be the case. But I've been more like, whatever is for me is going to come to me. I've been more like a daisical about like, we'll just see what happens next and, whatever. Yeah. And that's been great. And I love the pressure that takes off. But also I am trying to be more intentional. Yeah. I am trying to talk about more what I want. So then, yes, God can lead my steps, but it's because I've been intentional about like what I want and how to get there. So
I think when you are in that mindset and God puts something in front of you, you have the discernment to know that that's what it is.
Exactly.
When you're kind of just waiting and kind of like, oh, when is it going to happen? Like you kind of miss opportunities that might have been right there.
Right.
Sometimes,
exactly. Yeah. Or you don't take take advantage of those opportunities as well. Yeah.
That's so true. That could be a whole nother episode right there. I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about your project, Communities, Saving Communities?
Yeah.
Overall, what that means, how it kind of connects into some of the stuff you've done in the past.
Yeah, it absolutely connects. So I got the job, Communities, Saving Communities, because from the When Claw Got Shot Impact campaign and the When Blank Got Shot digital series, one of our partners on our Impact campaign was a national organization, Guntown for, I'm sorry, it was a national organization, I fucked that up again. Sorry, let me start that sentence over. From When Blank Got Shot, our digital series, one of our partners on our Impact campaign was a national gun violence organization named Everytown for Gun Safety. And Everytown for Gun Safety works with not only like the White House and a lot of politicians to try to prevent gun violence, but they also work on the ground. They give grants to a lot of different like community organizations that are working in gun violence prevention and reduction all over the U.S. Mm-hmm. And they do tons of work in this space. And so they were one of our partners on our Impact campaign. And once they saw the When Blank Got Shot series, they thought that was super dope. And they were like, hey, could you come like do some of that for us? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, and so, I started working with them. Hershey Productions started working with them to create some videos initially. So the initial thing was that we were going to create videos that highlighted community violence intervention programs across the U.S. So we traveled to 5 different states last year to, or 5 different cities last year to cover these community violence intervention programs to show the different methods that you can use to prevent gun violence. So there are like Black women leaders that we wanted to highlight. There are programs that work with children that we wanted to highlight. There are programs that works with what we call returning citizens. So these are ex-incarcerated people who are now back home and want to help use their experience to change other people's lives. And so we highlighted those. We highlighted programs that are within the hospitals, where hospitals are not only healing you physically, but they're also giving you the resources to prevent you being shot again, or helping your family to get away from gun violence and things like that. So we cover a lot of different topics like that with those videos. The videos are now done. We just haven't rolled them out yet. On top of that, we were like, let's do an actual documentary so we can get into like film festivals and take this further, and something that can tie together these videos. So then we started a short doc about a man named Marcus McAllister, who is a national consultant. He works nationally and internationally, teaching people. He's from Chicago, or he lives in Illinois, from between Illinois and LA. And he works to teach people how to be a community violence interrupter, basically. So he teaches you how to interrupt gun violence. And he's amazing. And he's also an ex-incarcerated person. So he did some time in prison. He's also a pastor. So we also talked a lot about what gun violence and how the church can help that, and how faith can help that. And so, yeah, we're covering him right now, and we're basically finishing up that documentary before we roll out the documentary and the videos together.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, as a filmmaker, I think, at least for myself, like when you can find stories that actually help people, so your art can actually change and actually do things and set in stone whatever that might, help someone else. I mean, that's the ultimate level. Yeah, and we definitely hope. These are all grantees of Everytown, the people that we're highlighting. So we're definitely hoping that we can continue to help these organizations get funding. And then just by using these videos and this film, that they can continue to get the coverage that they need. So first of all, it can influence more people to do more of that work, but then also it can really elevate what they're already doing in those cities. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's up. And then, so you have a project that's out right now that's hitting the circuits, the festivals, the last week, and it's a love story, correct? Yeah. Can you give us a little bit? Tell us about that. Yeah. And get people excited for it, because it's out. Yeah. In true Santana fashion, it's still social justice based, right? So it is a love story about a woman who spends one last week with her boyfriend before he has to turn himself into prison. We use poetry to intertwine a lot of her inner thoughts. And it really is, it comes from a cousin of mine, the cousin who was a part of the When Blank Got Shot series, Xavier. It comes from a little part of his life, where he had to turn himself in a few years ago and leave behind his girlfriend and 5 children. And I introduced him to someone who had never known anyone who went to jail before, never known anyone who committed a crime. And she met him before knowing that he had to turn himself in. And so when she found out, she was heartbroken. She was like, what? And that was one of those moments again where I'll talk about coming full circle, where like I never saw the lens of like what it feels like to meet someone and get to know someone and love someone as a person first, and then find out they did something illegal, versus usually we meet them and it automatically is like, oh, you're a criminal because you're in jail or you've been to jail or whatever. And so for me, it was really eye-opening and inspiring that she was able to meet him and love him like I do, like my cousin, right? I know him in a different type of way. And so that to me was like, how can I tell a story of this amazing man who people can fall in love with as a person first and then learn that he's going to prison. But now they're attached, and now they already, have humanized him pretty much. And then eventually over time, it went from his story to her story, because I am a woman at the end of the day. And when I was writing this, I was like, something ain't working. And I was like, how about I see this from her side? And I feel like we don't see a lot of films like that where we get to see what the effects of the family is like from gun violence. And also through the eyes of love, right? We have If Beale Street Could Talk, which is the only thing I've ever seen that was similar to that. And so then I wrote it from her perspective, and then it just flowed and it came naturally. And poetry is always something that, like I said, I used to write poetry when I was younger. I didn't write the poetry. Jeronica Breester, I hope I'm saying her last name correctly, wrote the poetry for me.
And she was amazing. I definitely could not have done that without her words, really turning this into exactly what I wanted it to be. So yeah, now we're out on a festival circuit, and we're hoping to do a feature length film that is it's not gonna be a sequel necessarily, but it is gonna be a continuation of the story about his first week out of prison and all the changes that have occurred, and not only his life, but again, the family and the girlfriend's life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So the festival run, you've premiered it a couple of times. You have a couple more coming up?
Yeah, so we premiered at Milwaukee Film Festival. That was important to us to premiere at home. We had an amazing premiere party as well for all of our, not only just the crew and the cast, but also our family and friends and some of the community. And that was awesome. And then from there, we went to, I feel like I'm forgetting a festival already, which is crazy. But we just came from Essence Film Festival. We also got into Black Girls Rock, but it's been postponed. And then we actually just found out yesterday, this is the first time I'm saying publicly.
Hold up, we got breaking news on the Media Boat podcast.
That we got into Newark International Film Festival, and we got into Black Writers Weekend Film Festival in Atlanta. And then we also got into a social justice film festival that I guess pays homage to the Black male incarceration holiday called Black August. So we got into the Black August Film Festival, which is obviously so perfect. Yeah. So we're excited about that too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You're really you're very inspiring to listen to, talk about these things. And I think it's important too, as a Black man and as a Black person, to see people doing these, you accomplishing dreams right in front of our eyes, and just being able to see that as a kid, being a young kid, and know that it is possible.
Absolutely.
I mean, that changes everything. And
right.
I appreciate the fact that you are staying true to that and being out there and letting people see you and providing resources for others. Because a lot of people want to do what you're doing one day, and you're just being a great vessel, and that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And I do a lot of work in Milwaukee with youth. I've worked with youth a lot. I love the kids sometimes. And so so it's very important for me, like you just said, to be a resource for them and let them know that they can do it, especially in Milwaukee, because we're actually becoming a huge place for arts, first of all. Let me say that. Let me not start off with we don't have. We have a great art scene here in Milwaukee. We have a great creative scene here in Milwaukee. But it's something that's still being elevated. It's something that's still being more known. And I got to let the kids in on the secret, because when I was growing up, I was like, dang, I want to really do this creative stuff, but it didn't really seem like we had that here. We didn't have film resources. Now we have a lot of film resources here for the kids. And like I said, I just want to be a part of doing that. Yeah. So
I feel like the seeds kind of started getting planted some years back, and people like you are starting to elevate into positions where now you can, give back. And I think that's what's going to really, the future of filmmaking here and the future of just arts here is going to blow up, because there's so many more people that are in a position to help.
Right.
That in the past were just trying to make it.
Yeah.
And, grinding through. And I see it all the time. I'm just seeing so many people that are being successful, whether they're content creators, social media people, or filmmakers, bloggers, whatever. There's just a lot of entities that are grown-ups now that, we're just young kids trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And that's my thing that I've noticed in the time that I've been here. It's like you can just see everything going this way.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I'm glad that you're one of those people that are resowing those seeds and continuing this process.
Yes.
So awesome. The next thing I just wanted to talk to you about, you have another project that you are starting to build and develop. It's called Black Girl Training.
Yeah.
If you could quickly give us the pitch on that, I think it's really interesting. I think it's the contrast of the personalities that makes it, makes sense. But just tell us a little bit about that, and then talk about where it's at and what people can do to get involved.
Yeah, so Black Girl Training was developed started in 2018, funny enough, so long ago. Jesus. And one of the reasons we keep at it is exactly for what you said. People love the concept. We love the concept. And it's a story that is necessary to be told. It's a story that is based on a true story of my creative partner, Emily Keister, who actually met at 371 Productions, which is the company that did When Claw Got Shot. I met Emily there, and I learned that she was a transracial adoptee. She's a Black woman who was adopted into a white family and raised in rural Wisconsin, and where she was pretty much, her and her also adopted brother was the only Black people in the town. And so when she came to Milwaukee and we talked about this, I was like, wait, what? So like, you ain't never seen Friday, and like you don't know these songs, and like
I love
all these things, like
Bruh Man Comes to the Window.
Exactly, like you don't know who Bruh Man is, like
funny.
you don't know none of these things that's like Black culture that you like have to know. What do you mean, like? And she was like, yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, hell no. So we got the opportunity to create together, and we came up with the idea of just kind of intertwining our lives. Funny enough, I went to college 20 minutes away from where Emily grew up, and then she came to Milwaukee for college. So we kind of switched places, and I had a huge culture shock when I went to Platteville. It was very white. It was very boring. You know, Walmart was the best thing to do there, the funnest thing. It smelled like cow ass. The police were harassing the shit out of us. It was crazy. And so I was like, girl, you live that for like your whole life. That's crazy. So we decided to like put that together and create a series based around that experience about a woman named Mia who is a transracial adoptee, comes to Milwaukee for school, where she meets her two roommates who basically put her through a Black girl training to teach her how to be more Black, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a comedy series where we not only explore what it means to be transracial adoptee and a transracial adoptee, but we also make fun of what people think Blackness is, basically.
Yeah.
Because I definitely grew a lot during that project. I'm not gonna lie. I was one of those people that felt like you had to eat certain food, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, watch certain things to like be Black. But then like through that project, I realized like, damn, this ain't really what Blackness is. But it is a part of our culture, and it is important to us. And so we still get to shine a light on the amazingness of Black culture, but also, you know, like also bring out those very important nuances of, like I said, the transracial adoptee experience and the Black experience. So, and then just to talk a little bit about our journey in 2018, we won a national competition. That might have been a little later. No, about 2018, we won a national competition on Seed and Spark, where we won like a development deal and a distribution deal, and some money for it and some mentors and stuff. But at the time, they wanted to change it into a TV series, and we weren't ready for that. We were like, this is a short film and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually one of our mentors, like months, almost probably years later, convinced us to make it into a series. And we were like, dang, okay. So we lost that distribution deal and that development deal because we didn't want to make it into a series. And then we ended up making it into a series. And so then we opened up a writer's room, we wrote the pilot, and we basically start trying to get it out there. It's really hard in TV. This is the only TV project I have or have had like on my own. And so unfortunately it hasn't went anywhere just yet, but we're picking it back up, and we're hoping to, like, we've changed teams quite a few times. We're trying to get the pilot in a better place. Mm-hmm. Emily moved to Atlanta now, so she is in, you know, all the Blackness and still working in film. So she hella busy. I'm hella busy.
Chocolate City down there.
Right. Yeah. So, and
that's
it's
a
tough.
great place to be filmmaking right now.
Yeah, it is. And it's tough because we're both in such different places now that it's tough to come back together and like make this work. But we really want it to work. And we built such a huge following when we started the project. Mm-hmm. We were super heavy on social media and gained so many amazing loyal audiences that still ask about Black Girl Training to this day. We did a lot of great content. Like you saw our pitch video that draws people to it. And so, yeah, we know that there's something there, and we know that the transracial adoptee story has not been told yet like that. Yeah. So we definitely want to continue to do it. It's just, we need somebody to come on through, give us the money, give us the opportunity, give us the platform. So, yeah. That's dope.
And you have another project, the Camp Interchild. Mm-hmm. How's that going? What's that kind of talking about? You got a lot. You're developing a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Camp Interchild is one of my newer babies. Me and my creative partner for that, Jasmine Henley Brown. Jazz actually wrote the short film to Black Girl Training. So we came back together and came up with this idea, Camp Interchild, where it's going to be a docuseries where we take burnt out 30-something-year-old women or burnt out millennials, millennial women to a summer camp for a week to connect with their inner child. And so they basically trade in deadlines for play dates. And, we just get to really connect with who we are, not in just the most fun ways of what childhood was, but also in the tough ways, right? We get to like tackle a little bit of that childhood trauma and the different things like that, because that's where I'm always come from. Right. But Jazz is amazing at bringing the fun to it and being like, let's make s'mores, let's do this, let's build forts. And so it's going to be a mixture of like that really fun inner child that we need to connect with sometimes as adults. Sometimes we just make life too serious. But then again, it also has those elements of mental health a little bit that we kind of can't ignore if we really want to be able to move forward. So it's been a really fun project. We're still in development. We're actually hosting right now. We have an email list, so definitely sign up for that, people. That has all the updates from our projects. And then we also created Camp Interchild Connections, which is a monthly kind of Zoom get together that we do with some of our audiences to just connect and talk about our childhoods and, do little fun games and fun conversations about childhood and childish pleasures. And then we're about to start hosting some in-person events and just really, again, building our audiences and also building interest for casting. So we're having a lot of fun with that project right now.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're doing so many things, so many impactful, just epic things for the community, for just your moral compass and everything. Could you give us a couple tips for maybe a filmmaker out there that's trying to figure out what their direction is? They know they like cameras, they know they like doing things, but what are a couple tips and things that you hold true to yourself that has helped you to navigate this journey and figure out who you are as a filmmaker?
That reminds me of a conversation Jazz and I had yesterday. The same Jasmine Henley Brown I was saying is my partner for Camp Interchild. She's actually, I don't know if I can say publicly what it's about and stuff, but she's writing a book right now about being a multifaceted creator. And we talked yesterday about how she is trying to figure out what she really wants to do because she has so many talents, but like she doesn't want to do all those things. And she like some of those stuff she's talented in, but she doesn't like to do. Yeah. And so with me, I think, and it had always been a conversation in the past with me and my husband that he's also a multi-talented, like creative, and not just creative, but just talented person in general in all aspects. And he used to think that like he was jealous of me because I always had this one dream, one goal, and I was always striving for it. And he was like, I wish I had that. But then as I got older, I realized, hold on, I wish I had what y'all have, which is like talented in so many different ways that you can make money in so many different areas. Like my husband is a property manager by day, a photographer by night. He makes music. He's trying to get more into real estate. Like he's a part of so many different things. And it's like when he needs extra money, he could go do some photo shoots and make some extra money. With me, I'm like, who gonna hire me for a film, please? Because I need some money. Like, and if it's not that, I've worked with children with autism before. That's kind of my second passion that I went down for a while. But it's so different than film. So it's like if I'm doing that, I can't really do this as much. And so it's tough for me to answer that. I say all that to say it's tough for me to answer that because I always knew what I wanted to do. But I think what I'm learning from my husband and from Jazz is that you can do it all, and not in a way where it's like you can do it all and be the greatest in everything. I can't give that out because I don't know if that's true or not. Only very few people can do that. But you could at least attempt it all. You could at least try it all. You could at least like have some moments where you try it and see if you like it and fail maybe, and then keep going, try something else, you know? I don't think life has to be limited to like finding one thing for your path. Like have fun in the journey of like figuring it the fuck out. I also think a lot of us take too much time trying to be fucking grown. Stop doing that. I don't want to be grown. I'm 32 and I still be like, please take care of me, someone. Like, I don't want this life anymore. And I think that like, even in our young 20s, we think we have to have it figured out. Like, I think they set up the school system and they set up life in a way that makes it like, all right, you're in the real world now, or you're going to college, you have to have it figured out. And that's not true. I think you just enjoy life, whatever that means, however that looks, whatever comes with that, enjoy life. Don't make it's such irresponsible decisions that you can't come back from it, but be a little irresponsible, have a little bit of fun, figure out who you are, figure out what you like, figure out what you want to do. And then whether you find your passion or you find your niche at fucking 40 or 50, it will be okay. Like, at least you can look back and be like, I enjoyed my life. I hopefully made at least enough money to live in that time. And now I can focus on, for real, being an adult and like moving towards this passion. So yeah, that would kind of be my advice.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What characteristics do you think successful, keep it in the directors, have? Being able to, I guess, like leadership skills that they have. Yeah, what are a couple of those things?
I always lead with authenticity. I feel like many people can feel if you are fake or fraudulent or don't care for real or are just doing this or narcissistic or just doing this so you can get ahead. Don't nobody want to work with somebody like that, first of all. Don't nobody want to bare their heart to somebody like that. Nobody wants to perform, whether like if we're talking narrative for someone like that. Nobody wants to take leadership from somebody like that. But then secondly, I think I always lead with being a human first. This has gotten me in trouble a lot in in business, to be honest, because it is a ruthless world out there, especially in Hollywood, and a lot of people will take advantage of you. A lot of people lead with strategy. Like, if you ever heard the book 48 Laws of Power.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody gave me that book a long time ago when I was going through a lot of hardships in my career and like a lot of disagreements. And I read it and I was like, this ain't me. Like, I didn't read the whole book, but I read the chapter because they told me you can jump around in that book and just, chew the meat, spit the bones for what you need. And I was like, this ain't me. This book is basically telling you how to strategize and almost manipulate to get ahead. And yes, I recognize that in some ways that's helpful. But I just can't do that. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. That's just not me. And I don't want to live in a world. I don't want to keep like perpetuating a place where we have to do stuff like that. And so for me, a big part of me being a good director is that I can connect with people just as a human. Like, I can just understand you on a human level, even if I don't agree with you. So even if I'm interviewing a fucking serial killer, like, where can we connect? Where can I find that connection to be able to tell that story? I think you have to have patience as a director. You have to have some sort of vision and leadership skill. I did learn that with the last week, it's a lot of people managing and expectation managing. And this ain't the case for every director, because usually directors don't have to deal with a lot of stuff I dealt with. But because I was wearing so many hats on a smaller set with less money, I had to deal with a lot of managing people and being the boss and being the one to have to care about everybody's fucking emotions and make sure, like I said, people's expectations are met in some way, but also like, sorry, that expectation just can't be met. Like, things like that. And so I think you also have to have thick skin in that regard. But again, trying to meet people on a human level and be empathetic. I think you have to, I think those are all the skills. I'm sure I'm missing some. I'm probably drive home and be like, damn, I should have said that. But that's what I can think of for now.
For sure. I think we've had an amazing conversation so far. And I'm just very thankful that you took the time to come out here and just tell us your story, because I think it's very unique, and it's you just are doing things at a level that it's just, you're making change with filmmaking. And that's, I think, a hard thing that for filmmakers. Sometimes filmmakers are so concerned with how it looks or like the story that is exciting or bright and shiny, but I think you're focusing more on like what is impactful. And that's a huge thing. And I just thank you for that. And please continue that energy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, can you tell people where we can find anything that Santana is going to be doing in the future and how we can connect with you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Santana the Creator. I have a Hershey page, but again, we're in the process of branding and rolling out, but it's it's her_she_productions. And then I have a website, santanathecreator.com. That is also being rebranded along with my company. So a lot of things are in the works, but you can definitely still find everything I'm doing on those platforms. And Facebook, Santana Wilson Coleman, the full government.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again for coming on. And we appreciate having you, and look forward to everything you got coming up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, no matter where you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this out, get the word out about Santana and about what we're doing over here at Media Bolt. And we just thank you so much for tuning in today. And with that, peace.